White people are afraid of white people. That's why we're so passive. That's why we conform. That's why we obey. Because we know that there are elements within our society, our culture, that are far more violent than the supposed fictional, mythical monsters of the other that they try to use to propagandize us into fear. We know that white people are violent. We know that there is an entire oppressive class of white people who commit violence against us financially, politically, lawfully. And we also know that there are classes of violent predators amongst us that will act out against us as individuals. We are also afraid of being kicked out of white society, of being shunned, of being ostracized, of being seen as a potential victim of the kind of violence that white people and white society writ large perpetrates upon others. When white people have deemed any group to be other, to be less than, to be potential victims of violence at the merest whim, the violence acted upon and perpetuated against any one of those people, any one of those victims, is a message to other white people. Don't intervene, don't interfere, or it could be you. Because whiteness and the protection of whiteness, the protection of conformity, the protection of religious affiliation, the protection of political ideals can be revoked at any time because it is very vague, it is always fluid, it is constantly negotiable. Because that protection can be yanked away from you at any time by being seen as stepping outside of conformity and pushing back against the norms, or just failing to meet the standards of obedience to the system that we live in. You yourself can very, very easily, as a white person, no matter what you do and how hard you work to maintain your conformity, your uniformity, your anonymity and blandness, to be just part of the white herd, in order to stay under the protection of whiteness, at any moment, one of the violent members of our society could decide that they just don't care. They don't care about your group affiliation. They're going to victimize you. And then, once you've been victimized, you'll continue to be re-victimized, because in your victimization, you have become an object lesson to other white people. If you identify with the victims of our violence, whether you identify with people of color, you identify with indigenous people, you identify with trans people, you identify with queer people, you identify with immigrants, you identify with any one of those groups, you yourself can now be subject to the same violence that we perpetrate upon them. If you identify with an individual victim of any race, the predator is now looking at you. So we vilify victims, we demonize victims, we blame victims so that we ourselves are not seen as standing next to victims. Because we know that within our white culture, we protect predators of all kinds out of fear, even though there's a few of them and a whole mass of us. It's because those of us who aren't part of that violent predatory group, either at the very top or just standing next to us at the grocery store, intermingling like regular folk, waiting for any opportunity to turn on somebody and shun them as other outcast, traitor. We know that we don't have it in us, all of us, to fight back. We know that, we believe that, but it's fucking wrong. That's learned helplessness. That's training, reinforced by our parents, by our society, by our propaganda TV shows. Over and over and over again, white people are trained to look the other way, to blame the victim. Don't sympathize too hard with the wrong kind of victim if the perpetrator is more identified, more closely knit with, supported, and protected by the larger white supremacist group in our society. Conformity is violence because it forces us, it allows us, it permits us, it gives us permission, and it wants us to never identify with the victim, whether that's a group or an individual person, unless it suits the broader narrative. Until we unlearn that need to obey and that fear of being shunned and set aside and cast out from the group alone and at the mercy of the predators who are in fact ourselves, and our family members and our neighbors, till we get over that fear, we're not going to be effective in fighting back, much less fighting for other people. That's just one part of it. There's a whole bunch of psychology that goes into why white people can be very, very dangerous through passivity at best and through participation in acts of cruelty and violence at worst. We have to unpack why whiteness makes us dangerous. By doing that, we have to understand that whiteness is just a vague, completely negotiable identity that can be revoked from you at any time, means nothing, does nothing for us except make us participants in our own destruction and degradation. It makes us complicit in the horrors committed against other people. Anyway, I love you. Stay safe, stay angry, take care of each other. We'll talk soon.